Hi everyone, CB Smith here with a shorter, much less polished version of what I normally do here on Taking a Page. So, It Chapter 2 came out after 2 years ago, making this my fourth It video comparing both the original 1990 version and, of course, the book. The other parts I made can be found in the description below. So, this movie did what I didn't think possible. It made the other adult parts of the book actually good. That's coming from a fan of King. I loved his work for years. I have a little King tattoo on the back of my ankle. But that being said, I've read this book multiple times, which, if you saw the size, you would know that's an achievement. But yeah, it's more faithful this time around than the first remake 2 years ago, and also more faithful than the second part of the original movie. Interestingly enough, it starts out not halfway through the book like you would think, this being a sequel, but instead the beginning of the book with the really, really violent death of a gay man and a hate crime. And yeah, I've heard people talk about this leaving a bad taste in their mouth, and I can really see why. It is a story about trauma and the dark underbelly of small town America, but was always made a little easier to digest because King adds silly monsters and supernatural elements and all these layers and layers of filler in this story. The first movie 2 years ago had balloons floating around to show us, the audience, that what we're seeing is some Pennywise influence, even though we know that there's a real horror that's going on. Pennywise may have influenced people to act out, but those actions were deep down in those people. The clown just brings it up to the surface. This scene in the beginning doesn't have anything like that. While the other scenes that deal with inner horror has that supernatural veil over it, we start off seeing a pretty realistic looking hate crime happening, and it's pretty disturbing. I think the movie was trying to make up for that with making one of the members of the Losers Club secretly gay. That wasn't in the books, which kinda works. It doesn't really change the person's character all that much, but it does make Pennywise's taunt to that person change from what was originally their fear to this new one that wasn't mentioned in the first movie. I think one of the things new book readers of the story would be disappointed by is that Pennywise doesn't actually appear very often in the book. It appears all the time, but as other things. As a clown, though, no. And nowhere near as often as before. That being said, I still think Tim Curry is the better Pennywise. Not that Skarsgård is bad, it's just the guy is so clearly made to be scary with how he acts, how he moves, and everything like that, while Tim Curry plays a playful clown. But he's acting that way in a sewer grate or in the middle of the woods. It's off-putting. That's why it's scary. I think the people behind this movie heard that complaint though, because we have a scene where a little girl literally tells Pennywise that she's walking away because, yeah, he's in the shadows, being creepy. No one would want to go with you, Pennywise. That doesn't mean the movie wasn't scary. There were some really good moments, using a lot of shadows and sounds of things running up at you that you can't see. There was one pop-up scare, I mean, ugh. There were some pop-up scares, sure, and not all of them stuck the landing. But there was one scene in the book in particular involving the witch from Hansel and Gretel, and it doesn't work at all in the book. This movie actually did make it work. I looked at my arm and was surprised to see goosebumps. Good job, movie. I think the people making this were given an opportunity to get creative with the visuals, and they did a really good job. The adults were dealing with the adults are dealing with childhood trauma that they suppressed, and nearly every scare deals in some part with that. The adult part of the book feels off because the adults are still scared of movie monsters like witches and zombies or vampires, and it doesn't really work because those fears don't reflect the characters we were introduced to. Beverly is a sexual abuse victim. Bill has survivor's guilt. Ben has issues believing in his own adequacies. Eddie is an hypochondriac. All those things are put in here, with some more successful than others. I mean, in that sense, I think the movie did a better job than the book did. And there's this ongoing meta joke in the movie about Bill not able to write a good ending in his books, and it's clear from the first time mentioned that it's a poke at the ending of it and some of King's other stories. There's no way we were going to get the ending in the book, but I think they got the closest you can get with this, even though I was disappointed where the ending of it, the book, The uh, I was a little disappointed with the movie ending, where the ending of It the book was bittersweet. This movie went with a much more happier ending, like the original movie did, but went even further than that by turning one death in the story that was meant to shock you and set a dread to Pennywise's threat. It was now turned into an act of heroism, and it doesn't work. And in the end, despite the flaws, this was as good as an adaptation to it as anyone is going to get. It had some imaginative visuals. It fleshed out the ideas that were in the book really well, and there were a couple shout-outs to John Carpenter's The Thing, which was a little distracting, but does go with the fact that the book gave a whole bunch of shout-outs to movie monsters like Dracula and the shark from Jaws, and um, I say check it out. Be weary of some pretty disturbing things, and well, happy horror days, everyone.